Hello? Hello? Okay, we are ready. You all sit down.
Hello, hello. Oh, wow, hello.
Hello. Okay, sync up. Round two. Are you ready? Okay. So, Terry McDermott.
Hello.
Who is a local.
Technically, yes, I am a
You
local.
are now. We're claiming you as a native.
Happy to have it. My wife will be happy for that as well. She's a native. I'm 6 years living here, so I consider myself rather local.
That's right. Local, if not native.
There we go.
That's what they call me anyway.
I'll take it.
So we are going to roll right along, but if you don't mind, I would like to take this opportunity to embarrass you really quickly. Tony?
Happens all the time. Oh, you mean really embarrass me?
I told you.
Just a small town girl, living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train.
So this is Terry on The Voice, in case you didn't know.
What's that mean?
Just a city boy.
You're much taller in person.
Born and raised in South Detroit. He took the midnight train going anywhere. A singer in a smoky room. The smell of wine and cheap perfume. For a smile he can share the light. It goes on and on and on and on. Strangers waiting.
Okay, we get the idea.
Thank you. I wrote that song too.
Tony, can we get a little... can you all hear this okay? There's no
Hello,
monitors,
hello,
so
hello.
we can't hear anything up here. Well, everyone, please welcome Terry McDermott.
Thank you very much.
Really been looking forward to the opportunity to chat with you. We've talked a couple of times on the phone, but haven't actually met in person until today. And so, first of all, welcome. Welcome
you.
to the conference. Welcome to New Orleans. We're thrilled that you live here. It's really great. Congratulations on your success with The Voice. Before we talk about how you got on The Voice and how you've managed to convert that opportunity into everything that you're now doing, can we just talk a little bit about your background and how you got where you were until you got on The Voice?
Absolutely. I come from the city, originally the city of Aberdeen in Scotland. I was part of a band in the city that was like any other band in the music scene, trying to fight its way up. And we put everything on black, so to speak, and decided that while we were courting all the British labels, that we would take a chance and come to the United States. So we did. And
Did you sing and play music growing up?
I did, yeah.
You from a musical family?
I worked it out, actually. I think it was my wife the other day mentioned that it's been 20 years since I started my first band, which was a horrific number. But so...
Wait till you get to be my age.
Well, apparently I'm on my way, so we're good. But yeah, I've been doing this a long time, and I was in the Aberdeen music scene. We got signed by a big American label.
That was Geffen?
It was A&M originally.
A&M.
We later got moved to Geffen. We did pretty well. You know, we did national TV and we toured extensively, so I got to see all of America from the back of a van. That's fun. You get tired of that after about 2 weeks. But it was tremendous. And then once the band had broken up, I think 06, 07 was a horrible time generally for the music industry. It crashed. Record companies were getting rid of staff and bands in equal measure. So we went our separate ways. I stayed in America, and instead of getting out of music, which I'd considered, I got a phone call from a friend of mine in Candlebox, a band that my band, Drive Blind, had toured with quite extensively across America, and he suggested we start our own band. So we formed a band, we thoroughly enjoyed it, it reinvigorated me, I fell back in love with music.
That was Lotus Crush.
Lotus Crush, that's right. We toured extensively on that record as well. And right in the midst of it all gaining traction and doing wonderfully well, we found out that Candlebox had a commitment that meant our summer tour was going to be taken away. So I got that phone call that everybody dreads saying, you know those 30 dates we're going to be doing in the summer? Gone. And karma being what it is, I got a phone call about 6 days later saying, your name has been repeatedly bandied about. Would you be interested in being on a television show? And I only asked one question. Is it a paying gig? Yes. I'm interested. So that
They
was that.
pay
Yeah, they pay. Would you
on
believe
top
that?
of national TV exposure.
That's right. Apparently, it's not just to get your face on TV. So.
Well, that's interesting. So, let's back up in the story. So when you were in Lotus Crush,
Yeah.
at what point did you actually move to New Orleans? That's a local question that we need to know.
Well, my wife is from New Orleans. She was actually my neighbor in Los Angeles when I lived there. So I actually moved here permanently, probably in 2007, maybe May of 2007. I actually made my first trip here very shortly after the storm. I think it was maybe like 4 weeks after the storm. And my wife surprised me. She flew me off tour when I was sick as a dog. Wasn't good. The rest of the band drove on to another show, and she flew me down here in a conspiracy with my tour manager. And I remember getting off the plane, and instead of turning to go to New Orleans, we were turning to go to Baton Rouge, and it turns out she'd got me tickets to go see the New Orleans Saints. Well, that worked out great, because, of course, I fell in love with them, bunch of losers that they were. It reminded me of my team in Scotland, who are just as horrible. But we won a Super Bowl. But yes, so I fell in love with the city, and of course I was in love with my wife, and New Orleans very quickly became my home.
So that was around 2005.
Yeah, actually, well, it was about 2006. I was making I made my first trip here on tour with my wife, and then in 2006 I was spending a lot of time here. In 2007 I came to live.
Okay, so just to review, so you had a band in Scotland.
Yeah.
Decided to go on a flyer. Go to New York, go to LA, try to make it in America.
Take a chance.
You end up getting signed to A&M. Your label president moves over to Geffen.
That's right.
Takes the band with him to Geffen.
Mm-hmm.
You put out a record. Band breaks up.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And during the way, you end up moving to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Starting another band with some guys from Candlebox called Lotus Crush. You tour on. Now, did you guys? How did you release that record? Was that also on?
We were lucky enough, especially when you Peter Klett from Candlebox, the guitarist, was a good friend of mine, and he obviously has an old and strong network of musicians and producers. And once we got the material out there was a lot of people very interested in working with us. So we actually released it independently, and we had Kelly Gray, who produced a lot of Queensryche work, come and produce the record, and there was a lot of enthusiasm and goodwill about it, and that's actually why we took the name Lotus Crush, because we thought we were a group of lotus eaters who were completely enamored with music but didn't really know what to do with it.
And as you know, because I've told you this, if you have not checked out Lotus Crush, go on YouTube. They have a song called Black Hole. The whole album is great, but especially the number one track on the record is called Black Hole Heart, and it is just a crushingly great rock song. I love that song. My kids are so sick of me playing that song. They absolutely are furious with me. But anyway, it's so you do Lotus Crush, then that band basically goes on hiatus, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you said you got a phone call from The Voice.
I actually got a phone call from a local producer.
A local here in New Orleans?
Yeah, somebody I know in New Orleans, a local producer who, somebody had reached out to him, kind of third party, and it turns out that my time on Geffen, my name had kind of cropped up as, where is this guy now? In oblivion somewhere. No, he's in New Orleans.
Close enough.
Yeah, so there you go. So they found me and said, would you be interested?
Okay, so it wasn't like you went to a cattle call audition and stood out from the crowd and all that kind of Cinderella story.
No, and I've got to be honest, I never would have, in truth, I mean, I'll be honest about it.
Please lie.
I'll add a little lie. The truth is, I was quite against the idea of that kind of thing. I was probably quite snobby about it because I
thought it was cheesy.
I come from a musical background where we kind of fought our way on to get a label deal, and we'd fought our way to another country. So I thought it was, well, to be honest, I thought it was going to be pop hell. Again, being bluntly honest, the truth could not be farther from my perception. The show was just a joy. I mean, it was a pleasure. Professional, very, very professional, concerned people, and they were very careful not to bandy you about in any manner that would, was any kind of misrepresentation of who you were. They were just really looking for you to, well, sing your ass off.
Which you did.
And I've got to say, actually, testimonies in New Orleans, when Driveline, my first band from Scotland, broke up, and I was sitting twiddling my thumbs, and I didn't really know what to do, a friend of mine here in New Orleans, who's a great guitar player, Dave Rosser, said, well, look, if you've got time on your hands and you're looking for money, why don't you try Bourbon Street?
Okay, thank you, because I really wanted
Okay.
to know the story of how this happened. So you end up on Bourbon
I
Street, of
ended
all
up-
places.
I ended up on Bourbon Street. Now, all the bourbon guys were telling me, oh, you've screwed up. How did you end up on Bourbon Street? But I've got to be honest, I grew up in a village of 800 people in Scotland. So I was actually still going home every night with a smile on my face because I was like, I'm a bloody New Orleans musician. How the hell did this happen? So, yeah, so that was all very exciting
So
and
now,
wonderful.
all right, so is this part of the story true, that growing up, you did not know Journey and all the classic rock stuff that we hear,
absolutely.
you know, Brown Eyed Girl and all the stuff that you hear 80,000 times a night on Bourbon Street?
Absolutely. And you know what? My cheesy, enthusiastic grin for that first 3 months on Bourbon Street is probably testimony to that. Because they were like, why is that guy enjoying
So that's
singing
really
this so
where you
much?
learned Journey.
It really was, actually.
It served you well, mate.
Yeah, it did. It worked out. But I mean, that's the truth, and I've said this to my friends back home as well. If I'd left the band and then got the phone call to go on the show, I would have fallen flat on my face. It was the preparation of working on Bourbon Street, basically getting back to being a get dirt under your fingernails, grimy musician, where you work in 90-degree heat for 4 hours a night and learn all this classic rock. I mean, I grew up listening to a lot of classic rock: the Eagles, the Beatles, the Who, the Stones. But there was a lot of stuff that I'd never really spent any time listening to. So I'd get on stage with these guys, you know this song? And I'm like, no, but I'll know it by tomorrow night. And I'd go home and like, do you know Journey? I'm like, no, I don't. Are you fucking kidding me? No, I really don't know Journey. And they're like,
You
well,
ain't from around here.
ain't got no barbers where you're from, boy? So yeah, generally I had to go and learn the classic, as my friend called it, the classic American songbook. And the difference was, for all these guys...
And I don't mean Sinatra.
Yeah, there you go. But the difference was, well, a lot of the guys that I met on Bourbon were kind of burnt out by the whole thing. For me, a lot of this was brand new. So it was exciting. I mean, it was. Like, I was playing day gigs in front of 10 people, and I was actually excited to go and play.
So when on the HBO series Treme, when they say, no, bro, there's pride on Bourbon Street, they were talking about you.
Well, apparently there is a slight modicum of truth in that, yeah. So
Fantastic. Okay, so you're on Bourbon Street, you learn Journey and all these songs that you had not grown up with like Americans do.
Yeah.
And so you get a call, you go on The Voice, you end up runner-up. You place second in season 3.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
that's all right by me.
Do they like offer, you know, not that you would necessarily want this, but a record deal or anything like that? What are the prizes from The Voice?
Is there anyone here from Universal Records?
He was here yesterday.
Well, good. No, the truth is, when you get to the final 4 on that show, and of course you can imagine, as somebody that was on a Universal label and got to see all the machinations of that label, you can imagine how excited I was that I was going to be then again on Universal Records.
Oh, so they offer a deal on Universal.
When you get to the final 4, you're effectively contracted to Universal Records. And at that point, it's like any other situation. It's very fluid, and it's anyone's guess how they're going to run with it. In this instance, they had Cassidy Pope. Cassidy's a good friend. I love her to bits. I wish her every success in the world. And she was already on the show making the kind of country crossover where they were getting excited. They were like, you know what, we could make a couple of bucks here. So they started to concentrate on that, and we shared the same lawyer. So it became very clear that it was time to jump ship. So we got off Universal as quickly as possible, which brought me to the point only maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the show had finished where I'd successfully managed to negotiate out of my contract. And I was clear, free, and easy.
So you had just fought your way off of Universal, and now they
Yeah.
wanted to drag you back in.
I know, I was like, really, this is happening again? But is this Die Hard?
Okay. Okay, but you managed to avoid that fate.
Yeah.
So now let's get to the part that I think most of us are really, really curious about. So you make it onto national television, global audience, huge exposure.
Yeah.
Your face is on television. You're in millions of homes. The kind of exposure that people would give 3 limbs for.
Absolutely.
And so there you are.
Yeah.
And what you did was actually, why don't we see a little bit of it? Tony, you got the other clip? So this is where I want to go. So this is an original song of yours.
Yeah.
You fade out tonight.
He looks familiar.
He looks knackered.
Pictures. Great song.
Thank you.
So, did you record that just as a single, or did you do a whole album to go along with it?
No, actually, knowing what I know, coming off, I know that how a major label deal works. I knew when I was on the show that if, hypothetically, if I got in the situation of being with a record label, we'd be talking about, ultimately, an 18-month turnaround. That terrified me. I'm not blind to the way that the business has changed. I'm not blind to the way that social media and the digital aspect dominates things. And what I was worried about was the idea of getting into a situation where you are now committed to a process where you get one swing at bat, and that's the end of your game. And what I committed to was, as soon as I got off the show, like, the guy I wrote the song with is an Aussie that I toured with back in 2006. He was in a band from Australia. We toured together. We're good friends, and we decided we'd write a song. Both of us had the same ethos. When I get off that show, you take the tools you've been given and you immediately go to work. You don't get into a studio and then disappear for 8 months. It's no use. It's not the world we live in. That's not how it works anymore.
They'll have forgotten you by then.
That's right. I mean, we know that we live in a social media-dominated marketplace where it's ADD, and generally speaking, people's attention spans are much shorter than they used to be because it's an oversaturated marketplace. I mean, you can go on YouTube and get whatever you want, but you only watch 10 seconds, then you flick to something else. So we wanted to get that single out and get momentum and get moving and immediately open that chapter and start that process.
So you recorded the one song.
Recorded the one song, and in truth, it's wonderful the way it worked out. We ended up getting to #1 on the iTunes rock charts.
Well, we'll get to that part. Hold on.
The thing that, you know, I don't mind telling people about it, but there was a degree of fortune in the way it all panned out. Because we wrote the song and we were immediately excited about it. And me and Todd, we're the creative chaps writing the songs. But there's another friend who used to be my band from Scotland's photographer. He used to shoot for the label. A very smart businessman. And I think I told you this. And
so you recorded this. Where did you record the song?
We recorded it at my writing partner's home studio.
In L.A.?
In Hollywood, yeah.
In Hollywood, okay.
Just this, I mean, really?
So you had this song, and but just to make sure that I'm following you, so at this point you were not committed to Universal through the show.
No.
So you managed to avoid that. So you're free on your own. You're a free agent. You're able to do whatever you want. So you knew that you had the exposure from the television with the wind in your sails, as it were. And so, okay, I got to be ready to go. I got to have a song.
And time is of the essence at that point.
Exactly. So let's get this song. Let's make it killer. Let's do it. Make it big and sound totally pro, which obviously you did. You had the video ready to go.
I've got to say, actually, as good as the video looks, I've got to say the real genius behind that whole concept was the third party that I was about to describe, Don Rickner, my band's photographer back in the day. He's a really smart, clever man, and he sees no boundaries. Where we see walls in front of us, he doesn't. He just sees opportunity. And we were sitting there, really, I mean, we're tired. We've been up all night working on that track. And he walks in with like 6 bags of gear that he'd brought from his house and said, "So, how you guys doing?" And we're like, "We're great. We're just mixing the song." And he says, "Well, forget about all that. We're going to shoot a music video."
And you're like, okay, I've been up all night.
You're kidding me, really?
That's why you said you look knackered in the video.
Yeah, it was. We literally had about 4 hours sleep. And so he unpacked all his gear. And while Todd was shooting, while Todd was mixing the track 2 rooms over, we were shooting the music video in the front room.
And so you take the song and you upload it to a social media platform.
That's right, yeah.
So this is where I really want to pick up the story.
Well, this is where it got really interesting because we were proud of what we'd done, and we knew, we had some experience behind us. We knew that the track had the potential to make a dent. So we put it up on SoundCloud, which has been my format of choice. And it went bananas. I mean,
yeah, you had like 30,000 hits.
I think it was 26,000 hits in 24 hours. Staggering numbers. For us sitting in the front room eating our dinner, I mean, we were all just watching. They go, it was going crazy. So we knew it had gone viral. And at this point, of course, Yahoo Music saw the numbers, got involved. A lot of the blogs got involved. And they actually started talking about this is the new single.
Was the video up by that point?
No.
Or no?
No, the video followed about a day later. I wish if we'd got all our ducks in a row, it really would have been impressive, but I'm perfectly happy the way it worked out. So we're watching the numbers go crazy, and then the blogs see the numbers, and they start getting in touch. Yahoo Music gets in touch. And the phone starts ringing off the hook. And suddenly everyone's talking about
Hi, it's Universal Records.
Hi. Yeah. So we start watching the numbers go up and up, and we realize what we're onto. And because the blog started calling it the new single, you got to remember, we just put this up because we wanted to get a little bit of feedback.
Now, do you think that immediate audience has a lot to do with your appearance on TV?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the key thing to understand is here, and I saw this on the show. A lot of the kids that were on there, I mean, they didn't have any prior experience. They didn't necessarily know what they were being handed, but I was very aware of the purpose of the show, and that was when you came off, you're going to be given a very large window on social media. And if you can cater to that audience, and you can tend to them, and you can get music to them rapidly and consistently, then you have an audience that could be loyal and that you could really work with. So when we got the single out, it just started that schedule, which was be the first person to get music out. I heard the end of the last panel, and it's the same thing I'd say, which is, well, it's all very well getting music out, but the key is it has to be good.
It can't suck.
It cannot suck. It has to be exceptional. That's the only way in a saturated marketplace that I know that you can really stand out, is to be exceptional. And that was the key. We knew we were onto something strong, so we wanted to get out there. It did well. And then the numbers were going big enough, the blogs are going crazy. And again, Yahoo Music actually reached out to us and said, would you like to come to our studios in Santa Monica tomorrow and perform the track? So we arrived at Santa Monica studio, their Yahoo studios the next morning, and as we walked in the front door, it hit #1. So we're like, well, we've got something we'd like to talk about. And they actually had a little fridge, which was great, a little bottle of champagne.
#1 on
the iTunes Rock
Oh,
chart.
wait. Oh, so you skipped a step. Okay.
Sorry.
So you're on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
This is the part I want you to tell. Tell the audience the story that you told me. So the song is up on SoundCloud. You're getting 26,000 hits.
Well, we're tremendously excited with ourselves.
Which is a free medium.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people are just listening, and that is good for your exposure, but not necessarily for your wallet.
Well, that's it. I mean, we're ultimately, if you break it down to brass tacks, stupid musicians. We're getting all excited about 26,000 people listening to our song.
Nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's a starting place, but there's 26,000 people listening to our song. So we're all proud of ourselves and pouring vodka, Canada Dries. And our friend, the smart one, comes over at the house, and you know, he shot the video, and he comes back to the house. And we turn the laptop around, and we're like, look at that. And he's like, and where's the buy button?
Where's the buy button?
Where's the buy button?
Hello.
And the look that we shared, I'm sure, was priceless. We're like, we're kind of like, yeah, okay. We didn't think about that, but we rapidly fixed that, and we had it.
So how did you do that? What did you do?
We knew that we weren't dealing with a label, so we could move. We could move very rapidly. In fact, we could react. We could be proactive, in fact, in a way that I've never got to experience before. It was a brave new world. So we phoned up TuneCore. We phoned up all the digital retailers, and we came to TuneCore. There was a degree of fortune because we got on the phone with TuneCore, and they were effectively going to be the quickest entity.
So for those of you who aren't familiar, which I'm sure you all are, because you should be, TuneCore is a company that is essentially a digital music distributor.
Yeah.
And unlike some platforms which charge a percentage, they, for a flat fee, will get your music onto the sales sites like iTunes
Absolutely.
and also Spotify and Rhapsody and some of the other platforms.
Yeah,
so you used TuneCore as a distributor to get it out to iTunes.
TuneCore is the digital distributor, and I can't speak highly enough of the service they provide. There's lots of independent musicians out there with something they want to put out there, and everybody's worried about making sure you get as many cents in the dollar as you possibly can. And I really think TuneCore were tremendous. They're very helpful. They're very clear cut. And if you go on, particularly if you go on their website, it's incredibly user friendly. I defy anyone to be confused on that website. But TuneCore were tremendous, and we did get a little stroke of luck, which was the guy on the end of the phone said, well, you know what, we can rush it, and we can get it up in 48 hours, which I look back now and I think, well, that wasn't the longest period of time, but of course we're like, no, we need it up now. 26,000 people just listen to it. But the real stroke of luck was that the guy on the end of the phone turned out to be a fan.
How often does that happen?
Well, actually, it gets even better because it wasn't just a fan of watching me on the show. He'd actually been a fan of my band from Scotland.
Really?
So a little tiny bit of fortune. So he says, you know what, I'll put it up in 24 hours. We're all excited again. Back to the vodka Canada Dries and high fives. And we're
As one does.
As one does. And this isn't really not an exaggeration. I was sitting having dinner and I just opened up the iPad on a whim, put up iTunes. This was 2.5 hours after that conversation. Gentlemen, we've just released a single. It was up. It was up 2.5 hours. So TuneCore stuck to their word. They did a great job, and that was it. The ball was rolling. And I think when we went to bed that night, the song was at maybe 52 in the iTunes rock charts. We were genuinely excited by that. We felt like we were making a dent. You know, we felt this was all off our own back. I mean, we'd recorded the video in the front room of the house while it was being mixed in the back. I think the entire cost of the entire project was $200 because we managed to bribe a friend at one of the big studios in Hollywood to to master it. I mean, you know,
It sounds like a radio track. I mean, it sounds big.
The skill there has to go to my co-writer, Todd Berman, who is also a very skilled producer and engineer. He's also Australian, which means even if you disagree with him, good luck convincing him. Yeah, so we're in that position where it goes up. And when we woke up, it had gone from, when I woke up the next day, of course, it was like Christmas morning. And we were like, where is it? So I went and checked iTunes, and it had gone up to 25. And the rise after that point was merely a matter of hours.
Now, are you doing anything to promote it virally? Are you Facebooking and tweeting and doing
Yeah.
all of this kind of stuff, or is it just taking on a life of its own at that
Well,
point?
it took on a life of its own. To be honest about it, we didn't really have to do a great deal at that point. It ran, but the great thing was that the people that did pick it up, again went viral. It was on everything from blogs to Yahoo Music, punching it everywhere, to us, obviously naturally tweeting it, putting it on Facebook, any social media site that was worth putting on, we put it on. So it was doing the rounds, so to speak, and we followed that up by trying to engineer a variety of different situations. We recorded an acoustic version and gave it away free as a thank you for the people that had moved the song, which I think is very important. That you do.
The guys from the previous panel, I'm sure, would agree.
Yeah, you have to service your audience, and I mean that. These people are really they're the reason that you're finding yourself in that position. So give something back, and it cost. I mean, again, it didn't cost us anything to spend a couple hours in the studio and knock out an acoustic version of the track, but they loved it. And now it's actually going to be in a Kia commercial, so it's been licensed, which.
So you get because you own both the master recording and the song publishing, so you're getting both sides. You're getting the master use license and the synchronization license for the commercial use.
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching indeed.
But yeah, and the wonderful thing is it looks like they're actually going to ask myself and a couple of the other people to go back on the show and perform the singles. And
Gig fees.
there we go. And we've actually got a friend. Again, it's amazing. It's amazing when you're in a situation where you're doing it off your own back, when you really are working as hard as you possibly can. You're not sleeping a lot. You're just thinking of ways to do it. It's amazing the people that come out of the woodwork. Because my co-writer, a big radio plugger who was in the middle of working Justin Timberlake's single, phoned up a co-writer and said, you know what, I'd like to come around the studio. We're like, okay, please. We have plenty.
The radio promotions guy.
Yeah, we have plenty of beer. So he came down and had a beer with us, and not only did he go out of his way to spend an afternoon pretty much filling us in on understanding how we need to get the track to radio, but he then volunteered to do it because he was so impressed with what we'd done.
Well, okay, but that is a bit of a conundrum because if your song is on pop radio but it's not in the stores,
Yeah.
Is that going to be a problem, or is being available as an online download only is sufficient?
It's potentially, but the way I've come to realize that every morning presents 10 to 15 problems regarding one song. So you just get up and you fix them.
So is it now out in physical format in stores or not?
No, we're me and my band, a very talented group, all based in New Orleans, all New Orleans lads. Terry McDermott and the Bonfires. We're doing a European tour, and we're going to start with a show in Scotland, and we're actually going to release an EP then, which will start on the European tour, and then we'll bring it back.
That you'll release independently?
Yeah, which entirely independently. If this isn't an advert for go do it yourself, I don't know what is.
I couldn't agree. I think that's actually the perfect stopping point. This conversation is really interesting, and I think we're going a little bit over time. So I'm going to open up the floor for a couple of very quick questions, and then we're going to continue on with our website, Demolition Derbies. Anybody have a question for Terry? I think the lesson here is that you can do it. There are a number of morals to the story. Number one, where's the buy button?
Yeah, where's the buy button?
And certainly the fact that you were able to benefit from national television exposure didn't hurt.
Absolutely. But I think the key is you have to be exceptional, and that's the only way you can ever garner an audience in the first place. That's the only way you can bring attention to yourself, is to step out, to be, well, better than everybody else around you. There's no choice in that matter. And then the flip is, when you actually do have an audience, you have to know what to do with them. And the tools are available. And I know this from experience. There's nothing more frustrating than being tied into a situation with a record company where you feel like you can see a path to success, but you can't move it. Well, you know what? We're now here. We're there. You can. It is a really exciting time. In fact, my old A&R guy, who lives up in Portland now, he's retired, but I thought he summed it up great. He says, we're living in the fucking wild west of the music industry, mate. And that's it. It's true. It is like the Wild West. It's a land of opportunity.
Hell yeah. And he's not the only one saying that.
Yeah.
All right. Nobody's got a question for Terry?
It's all right. I probably wouldn't be able to answer it anyway, so.
Come up and use the mic.
Uh-oh.
He's a plant. Watch out.
Okay.
Hey, Terry, it's Patrick from Nimbit. Have
How
you
you doing?
considered selling the song directly to your fans so that you know everybody that buys your music?
Yes and no, actually. We talked about that, but in truth, our hand was forced purely by time. And we went looking for a service that could make what we needed to happen rapidly. If we had a choice, if we could go back and engineer that same situation, that would be a consideration, because there's nothing more important than having that person's email address, what it is they want to listen to, knowing your demographic, understanding who you're selling to. Because ultimately, once you have that information, you're completely in control of your market.
But as you guys talked about in the previous panel, there are still ways that you can go back and fill in those gaps, whether it's asking everybody when you're on stage, get out your iPhone and send a text message or an email to this address, or some of the other things you guys were talking about.
You could record it today and put it up for sale an hour after you record it.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, actually, that Joe Sumner is his name. He's Sting's son. And he invested heavily in a piece of software which hasn't necessarily cottoned on quite yet. But the bottom line to this is, and I got shown this the other day, and it is mind-blowing, is that what you do is, once you've got all your audience in front of you for a show, you tell them on the third song or the fourth song, whichever song you pick, you say, okay, take your iPhones out. You hand-pick maybe some competition winners, and you say, you guys will film from behind the band, you guys will film from the side, and everybody else just films from all over the place. And then what they do is they input their email addresses, and they submit their footage of that song, and it goes to this one software site, and it instantly cuts a music video for you.
So from 1,000 crowdsourced phones, you can edit together one cool video. That's pretty cool.
I don't have the punchline of the name, but I would urge you to source this out, because when I heard it, I kind of sat there in stunned amazement.
You got to know what it is, huh?
I can't remember the name, but I just heard about it.
It's just, I mean, really, it's just a piece of genius, because everyone will be falling over themselves to be part of the music video. So, I mean, not only can you write the song and put it out the next day, but you can then have a gig the following day and have your fans cut the music video for you.
Here he comes. Watch out. Montreal in the house.
Is it Switchcam? Switchcam?
Switchcam? It's not. I think that's the other one.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, it's going to annoy the hell out of me now, but yes, similar.
All right. Well, Terry McDermott, I cannot thank you enough for being here early in the morning and sharing your story with our audience.
You shared a Bloody Mary with me, so I promise you it made it a lot
easier.
easier.
They're good, I have to say. They're tasty and spicy.
Yes, they are.
So once again, there are some tremendous lessons from your experience. Number one, don't suck.
Yeah.
Which you don't. Really wonderful.
Not yet,
I'm a
anyway.
big fan. Love your voice. I love your music. One way or another, you're going to find a way to get in front of a large audience. There is going to be a break. Yours happened to be on television, but there are other ways, and everybody in this room is going to have an opportunity at one point or another.
Whether it's slow or whether it's in front of a national TV audience, I truly believe, and I've done this the other way when I was in Scotland, if it takes a bit longer, but if you do put something out there that you feel is exceptional, give it a minute and people will catch up and you'll have an audience.
And then when they find you, be ready with the tool.
The tools actually have been laid out on a plate for us now. I mean, there's pretty much, well, as I described, you don't even have to employ anyone to make your music video anymore. So You know.
All right. And then away you go.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Everybody, Terry McDermott. Okay, are you all ready for the website demolition derby? Because it's coming up now.